Hello, you're watching MCM, and I'm your resident rock legend. I'm Budgie from The Creatures. Enjoy. Or don't enjoy. But don't be passive. We did the initial recording at our house in France, in the southwest of here, nowhere near Paris. And then when we basically brought in equipment and made a space to work that was kind of away from the restrictions or the influence of time constrictions or anything that was going on in the outside world, really. Just to kind of focus down on, you know, really trying to keep the ideas as unaffected by what's going on around. When we... Hiya. Do come in. But when we finished the basic recording, we went to New York to mix, because we thought if we just recorded like in kind of isolation in our country kind of retreat, it would be good to kind of then absorb some of the energy of a city to kind of help in the kind of hardening up the ideas. We then kind of were trying to get ourselves a deal, you know, because we'd parted companies with Polydor and by that point Geffen. It was whilst during the process of we kind of relocated to England and thought, you know, it'd just be a matter of, here's our new album, it's brilliant, you want it. And the reaction was good, but nobody did. So we were kind of, we had some other ideas. We started to do some more recording in England. We did Second Floor and Another Planet, tracks from the album Say, with producers by this point, as we'd worked with just an engineer prior to this, with Steve Lyon. But we brought in Juan Livesey for a track and Steve Levine for another track, just kind of keeping ourselves moving on in a way. So it's a strange album, because it means that some of the first ideas came almost in the last Banshee sound check, and some of the last ideas, you know, were almost a year, maybe over a year later. And so it's a kind of a long transition in a way, but we kind of, at the end of the day, we took 10 songs and said, this is what makes up the album, this represents best for us what's been going on in 2.5 years. Creatures is only what we do in a way. It's because we have no Banshees to go back to. With the last album, Boomerang, we had 17 songs completed, and we thought, well, that has to go on the album, because if we don't, then they'll probably never see the light of day, you know, because we didn't know when we would next be able to do something. So we think that a good time for an album, or a good length for an album, shouldn't be dictated by how much music you can get onto a CD, 74 minutes. It should be what feels best to you, not just filling up a...
Yeah, maybe it's even too long sometimes, 70 songs, I think.
17 songs is way too long, yeah. We would probably go back and edit Boomerang and re-release it as a 10-track album.
About the sound of The Creatures,
yeah,
it has changed. I think it didn't really change since the first album, but in a way, at this time, it was maybe kind of ahead in the time, and now it's like 90s sound.
Maybe time is catching up with us. So we have to kind of move on quickly to the next thing, because no, I mean, it's kind of, in a way, it's a funny thing, because you know, when we did the first album, when we did Feast, we didn't know what we were going to come back with. We didn't really know. We went out and wrote an album in 2 weeks, and when we came back, people really didn't know what to make of it. You know, apart from like we'd had fun in the jungle or something, you know. When we went to Spain and did Boomerang, we came back and pretty much changed the record when we got back to England by the addition of putting brass players all over it. And both times, I suppose, people were saying, oh, that first one's kind of all tropical and, you know, and jungle, and this one's kind of big brass sound, and that's what The Creatures are. And
yeah, but the jungle sound didn't exist at the time of Feast.
No, it was really, we were not interested in doing a document about Hawaii, as we're not really documenting Spain. We're just, or the south of France now. It's just really, it's a way for us to get away from, that kind of interference, and also to have some fun, to have and to try and, it's kind of absorbing outside influences, but not directly. It's not kind of doing like a hula dance in Hawaii or, castanets in Spain, although we did use flamenco. I could use that. It's like, it depends how often you hear it, and it'll suddenly start to get into your subconscious. And it's the way, it's like anything. It's the sound of, the marble table. We have this kind of marble. It's kind of the sound of the house. Maybe is what started a lot of these songs off, because the rooms are big and there's not a lot of furniture in them. And things just kind of, the room resonates. So you start kind of playing drums in a very live room. The whole room takes off. It's like you don't need amplification. It's the sound is big, and it's like kind of trying to capture that power of the instrument, really. We just knew that we'd done something that was really different, We just, and you never know until afterwards. It's always in hindsight you think, it's kind of time. Time is a good test. I think if an album or a set of songs can stand up, 5, 6, 10 years later, it usually means that there's something, an inherent strength in them, So I can still listen to Feast now, and as I can still listen to the Slits Cut album, the first album I did, and still sort of, kind of think it was like really something special. I'm really glad we did it, and I'm proud to be a part of that,
Yeah, it's even more easy to listen
I don't know if it's changed that much, but in a sense, it's almost like you wouldn't want it to in a way. It's kind of, it's inevitable. What we always do is you try to take in experience, and we try to simplify the way you try, the way, it's kind of accumulating ideas and then trying to get rid of all the things you don't want, and making your statements more direct, less cluttered, somehow more pure. Can you say more pure?
Yeah.
I suppose you can. Say what you want, really. Purer.
What's the reason for a band like Success and the Banshees, who was really established to, and for you, in fact, to go back to independent label like this? So is it freedom? Or
well, first of all, we didn't go back because we never were an independent. We were always with a major. The reason, I think, before I joined the Banshees, it was very difficult for the band to get signed, even though they had a major, quite a big following for live. They were almost, pressured into signing Susie and the Banshees, and I think it was important to be seen as a major player. It was always the Banshees. I sort of, if you like, the way of kind of trying to subvert things from inside, playing the kind of regular game of singles, but trying to slip things through unnoticed. And that kind of, now I suppose we were kind of being shut down by interference from Polydor, and also a lack of understanding of what to do with us, in the end of the 80s.
We just got fed up with waiting for the record companies to wake up, and we decided to set up our own label after we'd written, recorded the album under our own steam, mixed it in New York, and here we are.
And into the 90s, it was just like, that the whole industry, has changed a lot, and we have no interest in the way that they want to market it so intensely, and how nothing's allowed to kind of find its own strength, or develop. I think it's artistically, it's a cul-de-sac, and I think we're glad we're out of it. You know, so independence, if you like, was the only way we could go, because nobody was prepared to take, you know, something they thought had already had its probably, you know, its best day, and we knew that we hadn't, you know, we're just about starting. That's the way it feels. It's you know, you can only be as truthful as you are to yourself. You know, we're not trying to, you know, pretend we're rejuvenated. We're not, you know, certainly not kind of looking for the most money on a kind of back catalogue rehash, which I think is what Polydor would have liked us to have done. They would have dearly loved the Banshees to quickly put out all of the back catalogue, which we will do, and make available all the things that are not available on CD. But, you know, we need to establish what we want to do next before we can, you know, and we'll do that on our own terms. We won't, you know, commit to an 8-week promotional tour around Banshees anniversaries and stuff like that.
And are you gonna re-release the Creatures also, as they are not easy to find?
We have already. Polydor surprisingly helped us to put together, you know, the artwork and remaster the Feast and the Wild Things EP, and they appeared at the end of '98, I think it was, probably '97 even.
Yeah, there's the Bestiary.
The Bestiary, and that's everything remastered. I think what we'd like to do is put it back into its original packaging now. I think because maybe that's, you know, in hindsight, we were just pleased that they were available and we could get them, rescue the tapes really, because the tapes are so old they're actually kind of starting to fall to pieces. So now that we've, you know, they've been transferred, maybe we would like to go back and maybe that's what we'll do with. Try and do that with everything. And, you know, we'll talk to Steve Severin and Polydor and see what we can come up with.
Yeah.
You know, I think everything just should be archived properly, put in its place. Little plinth library.
In fact, you've been part of the 80s.
I was part of the 70s as well.
Yeah, even the 70s, but you're part of
Probably a bit
rock
of the 60s
legend.
even.
You're part of the legend of rock and roll. So, how was it at the time? How do you leave it from the inside? In fact, from the punk and until now.
Well, I've not been inducted to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame yet.
No.
I'm not. I haven't got any clothes in the Hard Rock Cafe.
No.
I haven't got
Maybe.
waxworking Madame
sometimes.
Tussauds.
Maybe sometimes, I don't know.
What was the question again? How do I...
In fact, how did you leave the... Because we see it from the outside, but how was it from the inside to be from the punk, even before, until now?
I think, you know, all we I suppose, tried to do was, you know, pretty much whatever the media or wherever the tabloids, you know, decided you were about and decided what, you know, this is what you do. Mm-hmm. You know, it would just be, we'd do our utmost to kind of, to do the opposite. Mm-hmm. Because by the time the tabloid press in the UK had termed punk, you know, there was like suddenly every record label had a punk band, and they were all crap. Mm. You know, and the good bands were kind of already moving on into something else. It was all very quick and very quickly assimilated. But I don't know. I don't know. It's a difficult question. I mean, I suppose what it is because you're working, you don't kind of step back from it and go, you know, who are we? Yeah. We just kind of saw a lot of desperate attempts to somehow reinvent something new. You know, they became like, you know, power pop, new romanticism, you know, more labels, and all it was a different set of clothes, and it was like very lightweight pop music, and there seemed to be far more emphasis on how things looked, who could you know, invent the strangest dance step, you know, rather than like really what mattered was somehow coming with a bit of intelligence to the music, you know, and doing something worthwhile. And I think it's, you know, it very quickly got, you know, rapidly back to you know, Queen and Elton John being like, you know, unless you were, you know, it was quite sad really the way, you know, Stadium Rock didn't go away,
Yeah.
and still is alive and well, and much to our dismay. But I think, you know, there's hope for everybody.